Passion, dedication, and motivation. All three of these words would perfectly describe the mentality of Elizabeth Lyon. She's the wife of women's head soccer coach Mick Lyon. A marathon runner with the same will to win as her husband, she's doing it all while battling something else. Katie Spencer sat down with her for an interview to discuss that in order to cross the finish line, you must get over some other obstacles first.
Elizabeth Lyon wasn't always a runner, but when she discovered her passion for it, she realized that the sky was the limit. Getting involved in marathons was something that expressed her dedication and inspired her to cross that finish line.
You know, inspiration just abounds at a marathon, any marathon. I mean, I've run marathons with as few as 50 runners, and then of course those with 25,000 runners. But just tackling that feat in and of itself is pretty inspirational. But you know, you cross the finish line and you realize you've done something profound, and it's life-altering. It really is.
But it was in 2002 when Elizabeth was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis.
The very first thing I did upon hearing that diagnosis was I went for a run. It was just almost intuitive. It was the only thing I knew to do. And that also was very symbolic, because that told me, you know, my life was going on and I was still a runner, and I was going to run with MS. And I mean, I can't say that I haven't had my moments, but I tend not to dwell on things that I can't change, and I cannot change this. It is not going away. There is no cure, and I can you know, grasp my running as best I can in light of this, or I can shut down, and there's only one choice.
Shortly after her diagnosis, her husband Mick Lyon, the head coach of the women's soccer team at IU, was also diagnosed with MS.
And he was diagnosed in 2004, 18 months after I was. His onset was immediate and unexpected. He was over in England, his home country, and he was recruiting. But he went running one day while he was there, and the next day he woke up and attempted to get out of bed and fell to the floor. I mean, that's how quickly and immediately it hit him. His MS has been harder for me than my own, even though I understand the disease, of course, intimately. When it's someone you love, but you can't do anything about it, you've lost control. You know, you've lost my power, my ability to make a difference, and you just have to stand back and watch it happen. With my own disease, I just have this sixth sense that I'm going to be okay, and I know that I'm going to do any and everything I can to sustain my health and my mobility, and I just do think I'm going to be okay. But when it's him, that has to come from him. It can't come from me, and that's been more difficult. It's been more challenging to watch it attack him.
Shortly after, Lyon was contacted to be one of the National MS Lifeline ambassadors to share her story with others.
So I finally took her call, and she asked me if I wanted to fly to Boston and be a national ambassador, and my hotel would be paid for, my flight. I mean, this was just like almost too good to be true. Well, you know, what is the catch? What's going on here? And so I made a kind of a sarcastic type comment, and I said, oh, you mean I'd be a famous person kind of like Terry Garr, who's an actress with MS. And she said, well, actually, yes, Terry is one of our ambassadors, and she would be training you. Well, of course, immediately I'm like, book my ticket, I'm going to Boston. And I speak to big groups and small groups, and you know, cosmopolitan areas and rural areas, and it really doesn't matter, because the disease is the same, and the people with the disease doesn't matter where we are.
Today, Lyon runs with the mentality that MS is really going to have to keep up with her, because it's something she won't let slow her down.
What I put into it, I get out of it, and you don't really race against anyone else, especially running a marathon. You race against yourself and what's the best set of legs you can bring to the table. You know, I am no different. I'm no different than you. You know, I woke up with 24 hours today, and so did you. And I have MS and you don't, but we each have 24 hours, and we each decide what are we going to do in these 24 hours. And obviously, you pack your life chock full of as much as you can by virtue of your projects and your class participation and this interview. I do the same. And if I don't get a chance to do it tomorrow, I'm glad I did it today. I don't waste time. I don't pout. I don't cry. I don't stew about things that I can't change and I can't control. You know, things that used to be devastating to me, now I kind of laugh about, because it's like, if that's my biggest problem of the day, my life's pretty good.
In Bloomington at Yeagley Field, I'm Katie Spencer, Hoosier Sports Night.
Now, Miss Lyon plans to run her last marathon in spring, and she's even asked Katie to join her.
Now it's time for us to be graced with the presence of the rundown guru, Ben Heisler. Take it away, Ben.
Welcome into the rundown, folks, as we begin to see the seasons change from the end of college football to the beginning of basketball season. Now, while our conversations may move from #1 Alabama to #1 North Carolina in the next few weeks, there's still an element of college basketball in the air, with the two featured games this week in Florida at home against South Carolina and USC on the road at Stanford. What's the connection, you ask? How about basketball-sized scoring? Let's go to Florida. Gators looking to protect the swamp in front of 90,000 plus fans. Steve Spurrier back in his old stomping grounds in Gainesville. Now in the first quarter, there is Chris Smelly trying to escape a collapsing pocket, but Smelly picked off by Brandon Spikes for a 12-yard interception. Florida up on top 7-0, and Smelly, PU! That is a gross pass this time, picked off by Will Hill. Spurrier on the sidelines going, I cannot believe what I am seeing. Don't worry, brother, it would only get worse for you. Now 3:50 left in the first, time for some trickery. Deion LaCorn with the pass to the ground. That's not good for business as James Smith recovers for Florida. Ball was later placed at the 1-yard line, no touchdown. Tebow would eventually run it in. Now to start the second half, Tebow hands it off to Percy Harvin. Oh, mercy. He goes 80 yards, and he had himself a ball game. 8 carries, 167 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Spurrier can only watch with misery. Then to start the fourth quarter, Tebow finds super hands Aaron Hernandez. What a terrific catch. Florida rolls over the Cox 56-6. Pete Carroll and the Trojans trying to get a revenge game against the Stanford Cardinal, who beat them last year in Southern California. And it would start with CJ Gable. Now, there may not be wings at this Gable, but the dude can fly. CJ Gable goes 93 yards for the kickoff return, and that's a big momentum shift for the Trojans. They now tie the game 17-17, and the running game would take over from there, as this time it is Stafford Johnson with a 7-yard touchdown run, giving USC the lead late in the third quarter, and they would continue to roll it on, but CJ Gable just rolling and then jumping. Whoop! Dude's got more hops than a can of Budweiser. He is sensational on the game, 14 carries, 85 yards. And this would be that one touchdown on the ground, Gable from 3 yards out. Now with 3 seconds left, things get a little bit interesting. Stanford elects to kick the field goal, and Pete Carroll going, no, I'm sorry, dude. So he ices them. Jim Harbaugh's going, all right, what are we going to do now? So put in the product of Deerfield, Illinois, and younger brother of IU swimming alumnus Christina Lucas. It's Alex Lucas finding Austin Gunter for the touchdown. Jim Harbaugh cannot get the Stanford Cardinal back-to-back and wins. Trojans win 45-23. I'm Ben Heisler, and while you may be tempted to stuff your plate this Thanksgiving, remember there's always a little bit of room for the rundown.
Thanks a lot, Ben. Now that's the last full edition of Hoosier Sports Night we will have before Thanksgiving, but be on the lookout next week for a Hoosier Sports Night update as we bring you all of our coverage from West Lafayette as the Hoosiers take on the Boilers in the battle for the Old Oaken Bucket. For Alexis Hosier, I'm Casey Richards. Thanks for watching.